Okay, kia ora and welcome back to talk 2 of week 4. So we had a look at this idea of eugenics, and I guess one version of it, the version that was famous, was this idea that, well, if you want to improve the human species, you've got to manage human reproduction.
Yeah.
Ensure that the high quality human beings reproduce, and try to ensure too that the poor quality human beings don't. Now, how could this possibly go wrong? I guess it doesn't take too much thinking to imagine how it actually did go wrong. So if you think about the judgments that we make about who's the right kind of person to have children and who's not, and you think about a racist society, well, what judgments will they make
Yeah.
about what kinds of people we want and what kinds of people we definitely don't want? And so I mentioned the Nazis, and I mean, they were the worst offenders when it came to eugenic ideas. But this general idea was widely held in Europe, it was widely held in America, even in Australia and New Zealand, people believed in it. I mean, none of them went to the lengths that the Nazis did, but they certainly sterilized people who they thought were, I don't know, who they thought, well, you know, if you're sterilizing someone, you're saying, I'm not going to go as far as the Nazis and kill you, but I don't want you round. I don't want your offspring around. I want your hereditary material to be gone. So let's have a look at how sort of what happened with this idea, and I want to explore a development of it.
Okay.
And see if it does this. So, because this sounds like a horrible idea. What do you think about Furkan?
Yeah, it really does sound like an horrible idea.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, I'm not trying to come up with a positive side to it, but there are racist people in society and they're having kids and we can't stop them, right?
So yes, the ideas will always be around. And you're thinking we could practice eugenics in respect of them. You think, whoa, what made you so racist? Maybe it's what you inherited. I mean, it's in a way, once you get into this kind of thing, you end up thinking some strange thoughts.
Yes, but what I was trying to get here was that, so you can't actually stop people having these ideas and making more kids.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they can't stop people to have kids, but they can make more kids that would dominate others, right?
Well, there's lots of ways. So in a way, you looked at what I'm going to call authoritarian eugenics, which I will use to make a distinction. Authoritarian eugenics is basically, the eugenics was practiced in the 20th century. And it's the idea that it's a little bit like, you know, if farmers are trying to perfect their flocks, well, they might seek an expert to tell them, you know, which cattle to breed from, which of the sheep I should breed from.
There's serious research done on that, and then so farmers are using authoritarian.
Yeah, so a farmer doesn't ask his or her sheep, do you want to reproduce? The farmer makes that choice, and the farmer makes that choice on the basis of what they know. We can actually think of that kind of applied. That was Galton's eugenics.
Oh yeah.
And that was the idea that, well, the same as there are experts in human heredity and what are the good quality material, and so the experts should decide. We should decide whether, I mean, me for example, I mean, would an expert look at me? Well, I do have diabetes. So an expert might look at me and say, yes, I don't think we want more of you. Nothing nasty about you, you're a nice person, but nevertheless, just keep your hereditary material out of the next generation. So I want to introduce a different idea, and it's the idea of saying, well, perhaps we can make this kind of eugenics less terrible by taking the authoritarian out of it. So rather having an expert come in and say, I've assessed you and you're fit, or I've assessed you and you're not, liberal eugenics is the idea that we hand it over to individuals to make their own decisions. So rather than an expert, can you decide which are the best kinds of people to exist in the world? Now, if you think that there's no answer to that question, there isn't a single best, that person. The Nazis in Nazi Germany would have said, yes, I'll tell you what the best kind of person looks like.
Yeah.
But if you think that there is no answer to that question, you might also think, well, maybe individual parents have their own views about what's best and what's worse. And maybe they can do it. They can make their own decisions.
But probably everyone would want to have this same type of kids, because same type of kids will be successful in the society. So everyone is going to have the same kids, right?
Well, thank you for asking that, because that's, I think, an interesting thing. And that's a really good challenge to the liberal view that I want to describe. So the liberal view says, well, look, I don't know, the kinds of kids I might prefer, what do I value? I mean, if you ask people, what's your version of the best life? Well, people will give different answers. So maybe the children that I would like to have, I'd like to have children who write poetry. And maybe you, Farkan, would like to have children who are great at accounting.
Maybe. That would be boring, but yeah.
That would be boring, no, but you don't say that, so that's it. So we have different ideas, but you've already identified a challenge to that idea, the liberal idea.
I mean, because I was thinking, I would have a child who would be successful in life and have no problem about it. Like, will be fit to live in the society, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, less health issues,
yep.
Good IQ, yeah.
Okay, you would make that decision, but I guess you've also, I don't know, we don't live in a perfect society. So one challenge, maybe, is the idea that, well, I don't know, yes, I have a view about what I like in a child, but I want to have a successful child, and maybe my society is not perfect. So maybe I should say, well, it doesn't really matter what I value. I want to have the child that will succeed in life. And society is getting tougher, and the penalties for failure seem to be getting worse. So in a way, what matters to me is sort of, what are my values? I want to have a successful child. So I don't know if any of you have felt pressure to succeed from parents who love you, but also say, well, look, sorry, you live in this horrible world, so what I want for you in a way is of secondary importance. So that's one thing, but the liberal idea is that all of us, there are things that we do share, so that we should, so there's a distinction that we made earlier between therapy and enhancement. And the liberal eugenic idea is that there are some things that no one should want for their child. A serious genetic disorder is something that no one should want for their child.
I think on the therapy definition idea of human enhancement, everyone would be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to the enhancement as improvement, then things get a bit tricky there.
Yes, because I guess there it's sort of like, well, we have different ideas, but is that a strength of the liberal view? Because the liberal view says, well, look, it's cool in society. You have say you were a liberal eugenicist, Farkan. You have your view about what's best. I have my view, it's slightly different.
Yeah.
And I get to make my choices, and you get to make your choices, and that's cool.
But I want to close this video with a question about this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we do that, if we determine the genetics of our kids, won't we take an option and choice from our kids before they're born?
Brilliant question, and we're going to ask. I will reply to that on behalf of the liberal eugenicist. See what you think about that in the next video.